When the Israelites did evil again, God punished them and have them taken over by the Canaanite king Jabin. The commander of his army, Sisera, ruthlessly oppressed the Israelites for 20 years. Then the people of Israel cried out to God. God heard the cries of Israel and called Deborah. Deborah was a prophet and a judge for the people of Israel at that time. Have Barak call out 10,000 warriors from the tribes of Naphtali and Zebulun at Mount Tabor, and I will call out Sisera, commander of Jabin's army, along with his chariots and warriors, to the Kishon River. There I will give you victory over him. God commands you to call out 10,000 warriors from the tribe of Naphtali and Zebulun. God will call out Sisera along with his chariots and warriors to the Kishon River. There, God will give you the victory over him. I will go, but only if you go with me. Very well, I will go with you, but you will receive no honor in this venture, for God's victory over Sisera will be at the hands of a woman. So Deborah went with Barak to Kadesh. There, Barak called together the tribes of Zebulun and Naphtali. So the 10,000 warriors with Barak and Deborah went up to Mount Tabor. When Sisera was told that Barak went up to Mount Tabor, he called all of his 900 iron chariots and all of his warriors and marched to Kishon River. Barak, get ready! This is the day God will give you the victory over Sisera, for God is marching ahead of you. When Barak and his army attacked, God had thrown Sisera and all his chariots and warriors into panic, and they were running away. Sisera jumped out of his chariot and ran away on his feet. For how many years were Israelites tortured under the Canaanite king Jabin? 20 years. When the Israelites cried out to God, what did God decide to do? God decided to save his people. Who did God call to save the Israelites? Deborah. Who was Deborah? Prophet and judge. Who did Deborah talk to about God's plan? Barak. When Deborah told Barak about God's plan and promised about the victory, what was Barak's response? Barak was afraid that he didn't want to go unless Deborah comes with him. God gave victory to Israel in the war against Canaanite king Jabin. How? God threw panic into the entire Canaanite army, making them not able to fight but run away. Hello everyone! Today we're going to look into the book of Judges and learn about a woman named Deborah. In the leadership of Joshua, Israelites finally went into the promised land, Canaan, and lived there. They remembered and worshiped God for a while, but they turned away from God again and worshiped idols. It made God so angry that He punished them and gave them over to their enemies. Israel was taken over by the king of Canaan, Jabin, and Sisera, who was the commander of his army. The Israelites were ruthlessly oppressed for 20 years. So the Israelites cries out to God, and once again, God hears their cries and turns His heart to save them. When the Israelites went into Canaan, they did not have a king for a long time. But just like how God had called people like Moses and Joshua to lead His people, God had called individuals to rule, to lead and guide the people of Israel according to God's commands. These people were called the judge. And Deborah was one of the judges in the Bible. God calls Deborah and tells her about His plan. So Deborah goes to a man named Barak and tells him to take his army and fight the army of the king Jabin, because God promised to give the victory to Israel. But Barak refused. God planned to give him the victory. Why is Barak refusing to go? Do you think Barak was still afraid? I think so too. Barak was too afraid to go, so he says he will go only if Deborah goes with him. What we can read in the Bible about Deborah is very little, but enough to know some important things. Number 1, Deborah was a woman and a judge. We don't see many women in the Bible, and Deborah is one of the few. In the male-dominant society, Deborah, as a woman, was called by God to lead people in God's commands. Number 2, Deborah was strong and courageous through the faith she had in God. Deborah received the word from God, and she obeys just as God instructed. Deborah was not afraid, but she was strong and courageous because she believed and trusted in God with no questions. Man or woman, young or old, big or small, does not matter. God calls those who love Him, those who have faith in Him, and willing to obey Him. God only looks at your heart. So when you have faith and trust in God, you can become strong and courageous and be called to do God's work, just like Deborah. Draw 2 magnifying glasses and 1 heart. The heart has to fit into the magnifying glass. Then color them in any way you like. Then cut out both magnifying glasses and a heart. On a clear plastic sheet, draw 2 circles in the same size as the magnifying glass. And cut them out. Using the glue or tape, put the heart in between 2 circles. Using glue or stapler, put the clear plastic circle with a heart between 2 magnifying glasses. The Lord doesn't see things the way you see them. People judge by outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. 1 Samuel 16:7b.